Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about proportions. We've learned a little bit already with ratios and unit rates. So first thing is we're going to talk about our notes. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see better. It says proportions. What is a proportion? And a proportion is an equation where two ratios are equivalent, or that's another way of saying equal. So for instance, 1/2 and 3/6 make a proportion, because if I multiply 1 by 3 and 2 by 3, I get 3/6. Same thing if I were to say 3/6 divided by 3 gives me 1/2. And we know that works because 3 over 3, we're dividing by 3 over 3, but that's the same thing as dividing by 1 whole. And that's our identity property of multiplication or division. Alright, so now we have to check and see if these make a proportion. So, and the key rule for a proportion is, and we can write this at the top of our paper, whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom, and vice versa, right? So for instance, in here we multiplied by 3, and here we divided by 3, but it was the same thing on the numerator and the denominator, the top and the bottom. Alright, so we need to see if number 1 is a proportion. Is it 3/5 and 6/10? Well, I know that from 5 to 10 I multiply by 2. So if I multiply by the same thing on the top, 3 times 2, that gave me 10. Does 3 times 2 give me 6? That gives me 6. So yes, it is, because it works. Alright, how do I get from 2 to 4? Well, I can multiply by 2. If I multiply by the same thing on the bottom, 9 times, so 2 times 2 gives me 4, that's why I checked it. 9 times 2, does that give me 16? No, that gives me 18, so the bottom doesn't work. So this one is not a proportion. 15/20 and 4/5. To get from 20 to 5, I have to divide by 4. That'll give me 5. But if I divide 15 by 4, that doesn't give me 4. I would have to divide 16 by 4 to give me 4. And I can't change the numbers, so that doesn't work either. Eight 24ths and 1/3. To get from 8 to 1, I need to divide by 8. And 8 divided by 8 gives me 1. And I have to do the same thing on the bottom. So 24 divided by 8, does that give me 3? Yes, it does. So that does form a proportion. So now you can try these on your own and pause the video if you need to. Okay, hopefully you've paused it and tried these next on your own, and we're going to go over them just to see if you got the same things I got. So this is very interesting. 3/5, is that the same as 5/3? Well, before I even try to do a proportion of seeing what's alike on the top and the bottom, I know that since my numerator is smaller than my denominator, this fraction is less than 1. And I know that 5 is greater than 3, so this fraction would be more than 1. Would a number that's less than 1 and a number that's more than 1 be equivalent? No, absolutely not. You could also see that by dividing 5 by 3, you have to divide by 1.6 repeating to get 3. And if you divide it by 1.6 repeating here, you would get about 1.8, and that would not work. So no, the proportion won't work. Let's try. if we did 8 divided by 2, I know gives me 4. So if I divide 9 by 2, do I get 3? I actually get 4.5, so that won't work. So this one is no as well. And then here, oh my goodness, how do we get from 45 to 35, from 35 to 45? That means we're going to have to multiply by 1.825 and so on. Something you guys might see is that you're adding 10, and you're also adding 10 here, but a proportion has to be done with multiplication and division. So we can write that down here, multiply and divide always. So it doesn't work to add, we would have to multiply. And if I multiplied 40 times 1.285, I would get 51.4, so that wouldn't work either. So that would be no as well. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is, we know what a proportion is now. We've talked about that it's two ratios that are equivalent, 1/3 and 3/6, because we multiplied by 3 on each side, and we know that whatever we do to the top, we have to do to the bottom. We went through and we saw if they were proportions or not. And another way we can do this is we can solve the proportion. So to solve a proportion, we have to find the cross products. And then we have to divide each side by the coefficient. I like to call this, and you might want to write this over here, I like to call this the butterfly method. Okay, so all you do is you make a little butterfly, right? The cross product, so we're multiplying 2 and 18, or multiplying 3 and f. So we're going to write down here 3 times f equals 2 times 18. So that'll give me 3f equals 36. Now, you guys know from solving one-step equations that 3 is my bossy neighbor, right? F is saying, multiply by 3 and multiply by 3. And we box that in. And you hate when people boss you around, so you always want to do the opposite of what they're saying, or the inverse. The inverse of multiplying by 3 would be dividing by 3. So whatever you do on one side, you have to do the other. These 3's cancel, and you're left with f equals 12. And that's your solution. So now let's try some over here. Okay, so step 1, make your butterfly wings or find the cross products. That's going to give me 6 times v equals 10 times 3. I simplify that to 6v equals 30. Divide by 6, divide by 6, and I'm left with v equals 5. And if you want to check yourself, you can plug 5 in there. Is 6 divided by 2 3? Yes. And is 5 divided by 2, is 10 divided by 2 5? Yes. So that works. Number 10, we find our cross products, and we'll have 10 times s equals 2 times 50. That'll be 10s equals 100. Divide by 10, divide by 10. 10's cancel, and you're left with s equals 10. And we know that's correct too, because we're multiplying by 5 on the top and the bottom to get our answers. Okay, let's try 11. We'll get 3x equals 12 times 4. 3x equals 48. And guess what? If you're having, these were a little bit easier. So if you knew what, 30 divided by 6 was 5, that's great. If you knew 100 divided by 10 was 10, that's awesome. But here we're going to have to divide by 3. And if 48 divided by 3 is a little tricky for you, you can get your calculator and try typing it in on your own. 43 divided by 3 equals 16. Because we can use a calculator in this unit, so that's awesome. So 16 is equal to x. Now let's do the next one. Remember, butterfly wings. We'll have 2n equals 3 times 8. You'll get 2n equals 24. Divide by 2, divide by 2. You'll get n equals 12. Is this making sense? I hope so. Cross multiply here, butterfly wings. You'll get, now does my variable always have to be on the left side, or can I write on the right side? Like for instance, on this one I wanted to do 3 times 15 equals 5 times b. Can I do that? Can I write 45 equals 5b? Well, usually you guys are used to seeing the variable on the left side, but it doesn't matter because this equal sign tells me that either side of this is equivalent to the other. That's what an equation means. Both sides are equal. Remember, this is an algebraic expression and this is a numerical expression. Is it all coming back to you from earlier? So here we're going to divide by 5, and then we divide by 5 on this side. These cancel, and we're left with 9 equals b. And you can rewrite that to b equals 9 if that helps you, but either way is correct. So now I'm going to do, I know it says your turn, but I'm going to do this next one with you because it's decimals and I don't want you to worry too much. So 1.2 times 1.5 equals 9c. It's okay if you can't do it in your head. You don't need to. You can just use your calculator. Do 1.2 times 1.5 and that'll give you 1.8 equals 9c. Now you know the bossy neighbor, you're going to have to divide by 9. So you just divide by 9, and you should get 0.2 equals c. Push this up a little. I'll bring this one down some more. Okay, so now we're going to cross multiply again. Here I'm going to get 2 times 9 equals 6 times y. 18 equals 6y. Divide by 6, divide by 6, and you'll be left with 3 equals y, or y equals 3, whichever one you prefer. This one gets a little trickier with the decimals. It's not any harder. You do the same thing. It's just not as easy for you to do it in your head. So this is going to be 2.6 times 1.5 equals 1.3 times x. And put that in the calculator. So it's going to give you 3.9 equals 1.3x. Now the bossy neighbor is still multiplying, but it's multiplying by a decimal. So you're just going to divide by the coefficient each time. Those cancel. And 3.9 divided by 1.3, the same thing as 39 divided by 13, just with a decimal place in it. And you'll get 3 as your answer is equal to x, or x is equal to 3. Okay? So here you're going to have 2x equals 5 times 8. So you'll have 2x equals 40. Divide by 2, divide by 2. X will leave you with 20. And then over here, cross multiply, butterfly method, and you'll get 21 times 12 gives you 9f. 21 times 12 gives me 252 equals 9s. Divide by 9. Divide by 9. And you'll get 28 equals f. Or f equals 28. So now you're going to flip it over, and your homework, I'll zoom out for you. Your homework is to do this worksheet called Cross and Solve. So it's the same thing like we did last time. You are doing the butterfly method as in 1. I'll do this with you. So you're going to do 3 times 8 and n times 4. So here they have 3 times 8 equals 4 times n. So you simplify it to 24 equals 4n. And then once you get there, you have to divide by 4 on each side. Those cancel, and you're left with n equals 6. Okay? So you're to finish the rest of this page for homework. It's not that many problems. We just did the first one together, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Only 10 problems. And just bring it in tomorrow so that I can make sure you've done it and I can check it off for you for homework. Thanks. Have a good night.